Hello, everybody. I'm Jeremy, owner-operator of Green 13 for 15 years. Third generation auctioneer and dealer of antiques and collectibles for over 30 years.
We are Lysandra and Tony from ilovediscounts_com. With 20 years of experience across brick and mortar, Amazon, eBay, and whatnot, we have built, broken, and rebuilt resale businesses, so you don't have to.
Hi, I'm Tracy, a CPA with over 30 years of audit and tax experience and have worked with businesses in various industries. I am also a seller on Whatnot, eBay, and Etsy.
Welcome to Reselling Roundtable.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Reselling Roundtable. Tonight, we are going to be talking about schedule it or wing it. And I'm super interested to hear everybody on the show tonight kind of what they do. I've been thinking about it, and if you know me at all, you already know without a doubt that I am a 100% schedule it person. However, I see value in both ways. If I were to be a wing it person all the time, though, it would absolutely drive me crazy. Nothing would get done. I would sit on my couch and never get out of bed. I am very much driven by deadlines and deliverable dates, which is kind of my motivation to get stuff done. But we're going to talk about it tonight, not just which one are you, but what are the benefits? What are the pros and cons of being a schedule it person versus being a wing it person? And how does being a wing it person can actually help you and motivate you maybe in ways that scheduling it doesn't? To kick it off, I am going to just kind of talk about a couple of key points. For me, I just mentioned it that having a deliverable drives me. Knowing I have a show scheduled, what do I need to do for that show? Working backwards. I think part of that comes from my profession over the years, that everything was date driven and you can't miss the dates. I mean, April 15th as a tax person comes up on April 15th, and regardless if you're ready or not, so you better be ready. So I think part of this comes from just the profession I've been in for so long is very deliverable driven, which kind of makes you into a schedule it type person. However, like I said, I think there's pros and cons for both. So much so that when I have to wing it, it causes me anxiety. I can't get on here and just talk. You can see I always have some notes ready, key points to talk about, and maybe not having everything scripted, but kind of just having my ducks in a row before I go into something, for me, makes me feel calmer. Because I see that there's benefits in being able to be spur of the moment and just have a conversation and chit chat with people or respond to what's going on in your chat. If you're in the middle of a show, you can't script that. I don't know what somebody's going to put in there. So I think having some of that spur of the moment is really good for you. So in order to teach me to do that, I've actually scheduled 2 shows a week that I try not to use notes for. It's a chat and sell type show. Mainly, there's a lot more chatting going on than there is selling. And honestly, to tell you the truth, the whole reason I even put selling into it was to give me an out, was to give me I don't know what to say, so I'm going to sell something while I try to think of something to say. And it's working so far. I do think that no matter which side you're on, schedule it or wing it, you can learn the skills of the other side, because again, there's benefits to both. One of the big things, I'm just going to go into one of my big benefits for schedule it, and then I'm sure we'll talk a lot about the pros and cons as we go through the course of the evening. But for me, it protects my energy. Scheduling stuff protects my boundaries, protects my energy. It allows me freedom. And I know that sounds weird if you say, oh, schedule it and allowing freedom. They seem to contradict each other. But for me, scheduling my tasks, scheduling my day allows me to focus on one thing at a time. I wake up in the morning and I have 50 thoughts going through my head. What does my kid need for school? What do I need to do for a show? What do I need to do for my 9 to 5? Do I make coffee now? Should I not? What do I make for breakfast? Like all these thoughts. And having a schedule throughout the day, it just allows me, okay, you get up, it's breakfast time, go make your coffee. Then you do this, and then you do this. To some people, that may sound very rigid, but it allows me, when I have show prep time, when I put in an hour or 2 hours on my schedule for show prep time, I'm not worried about the laundry and the packing and everything else because I'm like, I've scheduled time for that. I can focus on what I need to focus on. So for me, scheduling it actually brings me freedom versus making me feel trapped. So, and I tend to hear a lot of people who say, oh, I like to wing it, is because I don't like to feel trapped into this rigid schedule. However, I think it's freedom. I don't feel like it's trapped. So with that, I'm just going to leave it at that. I've got a lot of other points, but I want to hear what did Jeremy and Tony and Lysandra think about, and what side do they fall on?
Who's picking it up? You want me to?
Go for it.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. First of all, I'll say I'm definitely a wing it person, but because yeah, I was supposed to go first today, so we'll be clear. And Tracy was kind enough to take it over because I'm a wing it type of person and wasn't prepared. Be 100% honest. Give an applause to Tracy there for that one. However, I will say, you know, in the grand scheme of things, to relate it to live selling, I'm going to go with the personality trait types. I mean, there's a little bit of room for both of this in everybody's person into the business model. It's almost forced upon you one way or another, whether you like it or not. However, like Tracy was saying, having some skill set to wing it, because the big attribute that I really picked up on what you were saying, Tracy, was when you're live, you don't know what's coming down the pike. When you're live selling, you don't know what somebody's going to say. You don't know what's going to happen. You know, even when you're live like this, you know, I got cats running around, like just dealing with that stuff. You have to learn how to, you know, pivot or deal with things that you're not going to have to be, you're not going to have any way preparing for it. It's just not going to happen. However, I think now that I'm thinking about it on the fly, I'm winging it, obviously, and this is natural for me. But when you take that personality types, I can see now when you look back at people, the way they sell and whatnot. I'm a wing it person, so I like the live sort. I like to go through, you know, and just see what's going to happen at any given moment, what's going to come across the table. I integrate that into my selling style. And then people that are not that personality type, I could see how that would probably give them anxiety and like heartburn, essentially. Like, okay, I can't handle that. I don't know what's going to go. I don't know what I paid for it. I don't know whether I'm making money when I sell it. And so that I could see the people that like to have things scheduled and more organized, that's going to absolutely drive them nuts. So then I see those personality type, those traits are going to be the people that have to have the pre-listed shows, that have to be a way more methodical about how they go about things, how they, you know, be more comfortable with the option for pre-bidding and all that kind of stuff. Whereas me doing dollar starts and totally winging the entire environment that I'm in, the whole way up to seconds before my sale, I don't even know what I'm going to sell. And even to the point where, if you've been in any of my shows, I will take people for a walk around the shop to decide what boxes of jewelry they want to sell, give the chat room an opportunity. And I don't think that would lend very well to somebody that has the, you know, personality type that would be more of the, you know, schedule it personality. And, you know, we talked about this and before, that's part of the reason why, and we'll talk about it in the future, like things like raid trains and stuff, that doesn't fit with me because of all the, I mean, that is a pure 100%. You're doing it this way. It's at this time. You're running this way. You can't go on early. You can't stay long. Like there's no, it's this way.
Don't forget your preview show.
Yeah. So, I think there's room for both. And in my own personal life, you know, I was talking earlier when we were chatting about this. I am a wing it and spontaneous, you know, like fly by the seat of my pants, just want to go out and do stuff. Like if it's a nice day, I'm like, let's take the opportunity to go out on a nice day. And my wife isn't. She's a scheduled person. She wants things scheduled. And I will personally admit, to her credit, always want me to do things scheduled. There was a time that I would at least schedule stuff on a calendar. I don't do that right now. And I think at a minimum I should be, because it did help me, and I'm sure it would. Again, because if it did in the past and I just got out of the habit because it's not something I'm, you know, good at doing. And I'm not a big fan of just saying, I'm just not good at it. Especially if it's something I know, you know, I get irritated when other people tell me, like, I'm just not good at doing that. So I'm going to let it at that. I took some broad strokes, so I'm going to turn it over to whoever else wants to pick up from there. But the bottom line, I think, of what I was trying to say before I end is the personality aspect. I sometimes come on and I'm pretty hard. I'm like, this is the way to do it, and this is the way to be successful. But I think sometimes there's going to be that personality clash there that isn't just going to work for somebody out of the blue if they're a scheduled or wing it type of person. So I'll let whoever wants to pick up from there.
No surprise. Island Discounts is also wing it. My ADD does not allow me to really schedule a lot, and Tracy's Friday morning shows resonate with me a lot. And I made my first ever little block schedule Sunday night to follow this week because it was going to be a really busy week.
Oh my gosh,
North Carolina meeting. I did.
An hour
I did. I created the
this
whole
whole schedule.
It lasted about a half a day. Not that I won't try it again, and I do keep a calendar for broader things like meetups, because I will have a tendency to forget dates and things like that. And raid trains, but I'm definitely a wing it person. I can appreciate a raid train though. I do like those rules, and I set them all up, and I try to follow them. I almost always break one, at least one.
At least. At least one.
But we go a little bit farther than Jeremy. We will, where he just has just jewelry, and it leaves it wide open for him to do whatever he wants to do and whatever he feels like during the show. We do niche ours down into a type of jewelry and try to stick with that. I will say in some instances that has came to bite us in the butt a little bit because maybe the crowd wasn't feeling necklaces that night or rings that night. And there have been a few times it would have been nice to move away from that and go with what would have sold better. There are pros and cons to both. And sometimes maybe the sweet ground is in the middle a little bit, or being willing to do both. And I'm going to give it to Tony because there's two of us with I Love Discount, so I don't want to take up twice as much time.
You're good. So I'm glad she ended on that little spot right there, because while we are a typical wing it person, group, entity, we do schedule it as well, right? So we have our shows scheduled Monday through Friday. They're scheduled. Whether we actually get to run them 5 days a week, it's up in the air, but things do happen. But this is the full-time job for Tony, right? So they are scheduled. While the content of show is a wing it, let's be honest, I'm kind of with Jeremy. I'm 20 minutes before the show, Lysandra, what are we selling tonight? And she's like, necklaces. I'm like, okay, there we go. We'll just grab a bunch of necklaces. Because like she said, we have separated them out into shows. I do like the little variety show like you have, Jeremy. I do like doing that, but we're not quite at that point yet. But on the flip side of that, and I'm going to put this with the schedule is we have done a lot more over the last couple months of listing things out in the bin. And it has been worth the time and effort. Not necessarily for a show to pre-list everything for your pre-bids and what you're going to run in a show, but just for the marketplace. And it has been worth the time and effort for us. It's it's kind of like the old eBay, have 5,000 listings, wake up in the morning, oh, you got 20 things to ship, 30 things to ship. Okay, that's great. We're at a very small scale here. We're not trying to do 5,000 listings on whatnot. No. But so, while Lysandra said, we are by nature a wing it, there are aspects of what we do that are scheduled, and we try to keep it on the schedule. What days a week we're going to be doing what items, forcing ourselves to put those items in the marketplace and get them listed, forcing ourselves to even run shows 5 days a week because it's difficult, even with this being our full-time job, right? With the store closing and whatnot is a full-time job. it's still difficult to run a show 5 days a week for whatever reason. I can't explain it. It should not be that hard, but it really is. So I'm going to stop it right there.
And Gretchen,
oh, go ahead.
I was just going to comment back to Gretchen that I have actually pushed several shows because we weren't done with shipping yet.
And Gretchen, that's how initially for us, we set up our shows based on the shipping schedule. So we would do a show on Tuesday, and then we would do a show on Thursday, and then we would do a show on Saturday. And that allowed us the days in between to finish all the shipping and get it done. What happened is, or what did and could happen is, let's say your Thursday night show was amazing and you run 4 or 5 hours, and in that 4.5 hour mark you got a raid of 250 people in your room. What do you do then? Do you just say, okay, I'm still done because I can only ship it in 1 day? Or do you say, hey, I just got 250 people dropped into my room. Let's go. And we did this once. It was 3 o'clock in the morning and we were getting ready to wrap it up, and we got a 250 person raid, and we stayed on until 9 o'clock in the morning, 6 extra hours. But we held a bunch of those people and sold a lot of product. That
got a lot of new customers.
But it took 4 days to ship. So then things get pushed back. But anyway, sorry.
Sorry, Tracy.
Just a side note, did we just accidentally get back into shipping somehow?
We're not going into shipping.
It's half of selling. Shipping is half of selling.
Nothing in the details of shipping, just a little high level.
I just had to say it because it's funny. It makes me laugh.
I do have to comment on something that you said, Tony, though. And maybe I misheard it or didn't interpret it correctly, but you said, hey, it's still hard to run shows 5 days a week. I'm assuming it has nothing to do with inventory. It's more of the physical act of running a show of like, hey, I got to be on at 5. Let's run this show for 5 hours, whatever it is, time frame that you're going to go on. To me, scheduling it reduces that. Think about it if this was your 9-to-5 job. Well, we may not want to go to a 9-to-5 job, but if your paycheck depends on this, is it hard to get up and go to your work 9-to-5 every day? No, we get used to it. It's expected. It's a job. It's what we do to get our money to pay our bills. So we look at what we tend to be more relaxed about whatnot. We tend to be more relaxed, even when it is our full-time thing versus just our side gig, where it's like, oh, it's easy to reschedule. I'll just reschedule. I'll just do this. Whereas having a schedule and having it be like something so important that you can't change it. To me, like when I schedule a show, surprise, surprise, I know exactly what I'm selling every single week for the rest of the year. It is drawn out, mapped out. Does that mean it will not change? No, it's always open to change. But I know exactly what I need to source for. I know exactly when I'm going to sell it, exactly what time that show is going to be. And that's very comforting to me to know. It just guides me. It like, takes me down a road. And then I kind of get back to my main point because I was going a little down a rabbit trail there. But having that show scheduled and knowing you have to be there is just as important as a 9-to-5. I think I said in one of my shows that if half the people showed up for whatnot or showed up for their 9-to-5 the way they showed up for whatnot, they'd be fired. Like it's 100%. However, and you say, and I'm glad you agree with me, but what is the one thing every single seller support? What is that one word we hear in every single seller support show? Consistency.
Yeah.
And then they turn around and say, but it's okay to reschedule your shows. To me, that's kind of like it doesn't jive with me, but again, that's my personality type.
I 100% agree with you, Tracy. And I've told you personally that that is one of the big things that is holding us back on Whatnot as a business, is the fact that we will move a show. We'll schedule 5 a week and then we move 2 of them. And what that puts into the buyer's mind is that, well, if they can't be consistent with when they scheduled a show, correct, are they going to be consistent with shipping out my product? And well as a slew of other questions. I completely agree with you. Your talk on Friday, I'm going to go back to that block schedule. The reason I wanted to try that because you talked a lot about burnout, and that's really what Tony and I run into a lot. Is we're always on that edge of burnout, which is where you don't want to be, because if you truly do burn out, you're not going to do a show for a month.
which we
And
did
we
last
have done
year.
that, and
Yeah.
do not do that on Whatnot.
No, it's hard to come back from that.
No, yeah. I'm on that kind of note with the burnout situation that ties into this with the scheduling. Because of my extreme burnout last year, I had to go into basically create a scheduled time off, which I'm going to be taking here coming up. I decided I'm going to be taking up close to a week off every quarter, because when you're doing this, like we talked about, consistency is key to success on here. I mean, not on here, on with live selling, let's just say that. And primarily what we're always referring to is Whatnot, because that's where we all sell. But because of that consistency, and I understand that, I end up deciding I'm going to create, these scheduled, well, not, but these consistent timeframes for these shows that I do. And next thing I know, last year, I've already dialed back some. Last year, we were doing 2 shows a day. Like we ran for a while there, we were doing, I forget how many, but I had to be there for the clothing shows, even though I wasn't the one behind for an extended period of time, in order to get the thing organized and going. So me and my personality type, not being a scheduled type of person, realizing like, hey, if I'd scheduled all this out, I would have realized, like, honestly, if you have it on a piece of paper and you're looking at it, you're like, that is too much.
Yes.
I don't realize it until it's after the fact.
Yes.
So now, as a result, I'm scheduling time, and I'm like, I got to take time off. But I know, like, if I sat down and I wrote down, like, okay, Monday, things are running twice, and I have to go in and fill in if somebody ends up coming off. Tuesday, I'm calling off. On Tuesday, I'm running. There's 2 shows running. Wednesday, there's 1. Thursday, there's 2. Friday, and then I had a jewelry show every other Saturday, and then I had a clothing show going on Sunday that I frequently had to be at. And then next thing you know, burnout to a massive degree, affecting even to the point of affecting my health. So again, had I wrote all that out and realized not only was I doing that, but I had to source for everything too, with the exception of the clothing shows. I didn't have to source for that, but all the jewelry, the Friday shows. And if I put that out all on paper, I probably would have recognized, hey, this is going to absolutely kill me. This is going to drive me to the point where I will not be successful, or cause problems. And sure enough, it did. So it seemed like whether you're in the boat of scheduling or winging it, one of the two is going to force its way in somehow or another, because there is that healthy mix, and there's the mindset of which one's going to be the healthiest for you. But there is some adaptation you have to make to deal with it one way or another. I think all that much more in something like live selling. I think you can probably almost get to a larger percentage of one or the other in other work environments. So, I'll turn it over to whoever else wants to chat a little bit.
I was just going to pitch in and say, I think some of the scheduling comes down to discipline. I think it kind of results, it's not just consistency, it's the discipline. My least favorite thing to do is shipping. I don't like to do it. I try to spin it and I try to say shipping is a blessing because I sold things. So I try to put every positive spin to make myself do it, but it is probably my least favorite thing. And I'm not trying to direct our conversation back to shipping. But what I'm saying is human nature is we're going to pick the fun thing over the hard thing. Any given time, we're going to pick the fun thing over the hard thing. So I wake up on a Sunday morning, and Sundays are my shipping days. And I'm like looking at my husband. I'm like, I'm going to go over to the antique store, but I'll be back in 2 hours and then do my shipping. How much shipping really gets done when I do that? Probably none. Then what happens is I get up Monday morning. I do a show Monday morning. I got to work my 9 to 5. And then I have a show Monday evening. And now shipping still isn't done. Then Tuesday morning, I wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning stressed out because shipping's due that day and I didn't do it. Had I been disciplined, done my shipping when I blocked it out in the time I was supposed to do it, I've just saved myself 2 days of stress, which ultimately leads to that same burnout that Jeremy was talking about. Because week after week after week of that gets to the point where I'm like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this to myself? I don't want to do this anymore. And that's the first signs of burnout. So to me, part of that structure is discipline in order to allow me to have the time to relax and to do the things I want to do. If I were to get up on a Sunday morning and say, you know what? I'm going to focus. I'm going to spend the next 4 hours. I'm going to knock out my shipping. Then I can have the whole afternoon and go shopping as much as I want. I would probably enjoy that shopping a whole lot more knowing my shipping's not hanging over my head.
Are you telling me I can't go kayaking tomorrow?
No.
I have a question for everybody here. When you were a kid and had homework that was assigned on Friday, did you get it done right out of the gate so you could enjoy the entire weekend, or did you wait till Sunday evening? I'm not going to answer it because actually I will answer, but I was just curious what everybody else.
I got a fun little story about that.
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure that the nerd in Tony had all of his schoolwork done before he even got home.
Oh, wow, impressive.
I was a nerd.
On the bus Monday. On the bus Monday, Christian.
No.
I'm just curious because I think that's just kind of like one of those things that, because like I was saying, I really do believe it's almost like an built like a attribute of an actual person. It's not like it's like a hard set aspect of a personality from practically day one till throughout the entirety of your life, as far as this type of thing that we're talking about goes. So I was just curious, just wondering.
See, I would have waited until Sunday, because as much as I am a scheduler, I am a huge procrastinator and wait to the last minute. But again, that personality works well with schedules, because if I have a deadline, if I know I have an hour, that's all I got. I got an hour to get this done. In that procrastinator mindset, that spurs me to be like, okay, just rush through it, get it done. So
I just found a justification for not doing homework. and it was, I told teachers that they had 8 hours to do their job. So don't send their work home with me.
Right.
So I would feel like, if I get a job, I'm going to get a job that I don't want to take. So I'll elect whether or not I want to do work at home based on my own decisions. And you're forcing it upon me. I'm not doing it. So, yeah.
Teachers famously take work home, though.
What's that?
I said teachers famously take work home, though.
Yeah. But my point was that was by choice.
Yeah.
They chose to become teachers. I didn't. I was mandated
I
to be a
didn't choose
student.
to go to school.
Yeah, I had to go to school. That was my argument. Yeah.
I once famously put a research term paper off until the night before and took cough medicine, Dayquil, all night to stay up to do it. And figured out what happens when you take a whole lot of cough medicine. I showed up to school the next morning drunk. But I got an A on the paper.
Okay. Well, they're their bunny trail for the day.
No, you can edit that out.
They're old school stories.
That is recorded. That is now going to be our promo right there.
Oh my gosh. So look, scheduling. Scheduling, this is some of the notes that I had put down because I had an 8-hour drive today, even though I wasn't 100% sure what exactly our topic was. When you're running high value inventory, like Cher in our chat talks about, she does curated shows where she pre-lists and she auctions every single item in order. When you're doing higher value inventory, that can definitely win when you're starting out on whatnot and before you've really established that following. Consistency and repeat buyers. When you go into Tracy's show, you know exactly what you're getting. You do. And it helps for building a brand experience. I also think you can build a brand experience kind of like Jeremy has cultivated with his following. While you don't know what you're getting in Jeremy's show, you know it's just going to be a little bit of chaos and some laughs, and you're always going to talk about food. Always.
Yeah.
And winging it.
Them loves it so much.
Yeah, winging it can win when you need to move a large volume and you're liquidating items. And that's probably one of the reasons that pallets worked so well with Tony and me. One, we were already dealing with them and had sources, but it gave us a large volume and just to wing it. And if something was running really well, Tony could pick it out of the box over here. If it wasn't, he'd kind of push it a little bit to the side and run other product out of that box. And really fed off of our environment that we had at that moment in our chat. If you want a longer watch time, I think winging it can help you with that. People stay for chaos. Kind of just like drama. They stay for the treasure hunt and the dopamine that you're creating of what's next. I have no clue what Jeremy's going to pull out of that box, or if he's going to take me to the back of the warehouse and pull out a whole nother box that might have gold in it. The highest earners usually aren't one or the other, and I had that structured chaos wins the best.
I just want to mention, when I'm starting to realize what we're talking here too, that I think one of the reasons you talking about it in that fashion of being able to just pivot, that's what I personally feed off of, the opportunity that winging it provides, because that's the terminology we stick with here. Absolutely. The opportunity to do exactly what you're saying, like if you have enough resources about you to be like, oh, this is doing really well, so I'm going to capitalize on this opportunity to just keep selling this. Or, you know what, no one's biting on this, so I'm going to pivot over here and start dealing with this. When you're extreme scheduling, and I'm talking in the sense of, I'm kind of getting really into the actual live selling attributes of doing like just random stuff or being more organized, because that's the way my brain views this. The wing it people or the wing it mindset would be more prone to do the random, picking stuff, as opposed to pre-listing. Once it's pre-listed, I feel like you're almost locked in or obligated, because that's what you brought. It's kind of like if you almost went to a show, like if you're an antique dealer and you went to a show and you're like, darn it, I brought the wrong stuff. No one wants this, but I have all this other stuff I see everybody else selling. I think that's what actually would kind of give me anxiety. If I had all, I'd be like, what am I going to do if this, that, and the other thing happened? In this situation, the way I operate, I don't have to worry about any of that. But I understand I have the luxury of a warehouse full of stuff and have lots and lots of inventory to be able to pivot and capitalize on the opportunities. And that might be, structured that way just because that's the way I run my shows. It may just, organically happened, which would make sense. But, yeah, I think that, like I was telling Tracy earlier, that sometimes structured environments actually does the opposite of what it does for her. It gives me like anxieties. Like I don't have the opportunity to break out of this or do that or pivot over here or capitalize on another opportunity. I feel like I'm kind of caged in at that point, and that would give me a lot of anxiety actually. So I just want to throw that in there because what you were mentioning just made me think of that the opportunity aspect of these the wing it or scheduled type of scenarios.
I'm going to pull off something Noel said in the chat. Make you wait for one item that is way in the back of the pile, which Tony will do. I'm sure Jeremy does it too, but best example I can give is our flower show. We really knew that out of 200 items we were going to run that day, we only really had 20 high value pieces. And you better believe they were displayed in that pile, but did we run them first? Absolutely not, even though we were requested. But you can play that game with pre-listing too. And yes, if you've never been to Daisy Lane's show, she does it very well. Her high value items, she pre-lists them. She's going to run every single one of those items, and her best items are typically last. And she makes you sit there and wait for those items and stay up and watch through the whole show. And I know you talk a lot, Tracy, that you have a structured way that you do your items too.
I do. Now, I don't agree. Nothing against not taking requests, because basically that's what it comes down to is, are you going to take requests or not in your show? And a couple of points here. One, just to jump back before I talk about that, Jeremy, I think what you were saying is really interesting, because some of the stuff that to you that winging it allows you to do, that pivoting, the freedom to do what you need to in the show, I still feel like I have it in my structured show, just on a very smaller scale or done in a different way. If I have a bunch of items listed and maybe I have 2 or 3 pieces of milk glass and they're hot, they're getting bid up more than I expected, and people are like, do you have any more? Or somebody requests something. If I have it, I still have the ability to say, yeah, I do. Hold on really quick. Or while this is running, let me go grab a few more pieces. So I can still play off of what's happening and pivot and pull things in on the fly. So I still think there's some of the elements of what you're saying that we can incorporate even when you're structured. Just probably on a lot smaller scale, because I don't have the massive inventory where I can say, oh, okay, rings aren't cutting it today, let's switch over to brooches. Like I can't quite do that.
Do you mind if I interject a second on that?
Yeah,
that's fine. I just want to say, and this is my personality type with my branding that I kind of try to stick to, is if I did that, especially in your scenario, because you have relatively short shows and you're very kind of like, I'm going to end at this time. Am I correct in that? And if I were to do that and do a lot of that, I'd feel like then maybe I won't get to the stuff that the other people, like I might just end the show and have this list of inventory. That would concern me. That in that environment. So that would also be the thing that. But I know you're saying that it's just a little, maybe not as much, but a little bit. I just wanted to throw that little tidbit in there. That'd be an aspect that would give me a little heartburn. So, but anyway, you can continue on.
So okay, no, I totally agree with you on that though. The other thing I was going to talk about are requests. So there's the whole thing of make them wait to some degree, and this is something I'm currently struggling with myself. I have always been a huge believer in take request. I kind of equate it to, how would you feel if you walked into a store and they kind of had like some painter's tape on the like a little boutique, and they had painter's tape and they're like, stay in that box, I'll bring it out when it's time for you to buy it. And you're like, dude, I just want that pink dress back there, like let me go get it. And you're like, it'll be that you can buy that in 1 hour. Like, I know retail and online is different, but that's what it makes me feel like. When I go into a show and they're like, it's there, I'll get to it when I'm ready. I'm like, however, at the same time, so I've always been a huge believer in taking requests. At the same time, I've had a few experiences lately where I'm like, just my show on Saturday, I told Noelle after the show, I'm like, I'm going to have to rethink my view on request, because I feel that I'm getting more disrespectful and rude request. I feel the bids are lower on requested items than what they should be. But I don't totally want to not do request. I don't particularly like, if I lay my items out, they're done, like you said, in a specific order. Even when I did random pulls, they were on my shelf in a specific order. It looked random. It was not random in my head. I knew exactly what I was doing. So to go out of order, sometimes that causes me a little anxiety to pull in those items, but I still don't feel that it's right just to make them wait. So I don't know where I'm getting at with that, but it's something I'm currently struggling with, where the waiting might not always be good, because I think there could be a bad connotation just as much as it also creates an anticipation and a desire to stay. I think there also could be bad connotations to it. So it's something that I'm currently thinking through on my shows and struggling with. So
Go ahead, Jeremy.
Okay. That to me comes down to like what we talked about before, building your buyer base. Like, that's not going to be for everybody. No two sellers are going to sell the style that's for everybody, and you're going to find the people. But I will tell you this, that one of the things that I don't like and will never like about requests, and I learned this early on Whatnot, people follow the people that know what is of interest. And especially now that you can see people in the room that are people that you follow each other and your friends and stuff. So I'll give my example in the watch category. The people will ask when they know their competition's not there.
Yes.
So that'll guarantee you lower prices. Or the people know what's going on. When they see certain items aren't bringing what you were hoping they would bring, well, what are they going to request? They're going to request the stuff that's not bringing the money that it should bring. So I mean, that's just being a smart buyer, especially if you're someone like me that's buying a lot to resellers, or depending on what category and what the items are. So you're right. There's your pros and cons, and for you having stuff pre-listed and somebody saying, "Hey, can I run that?" or "Can you run that?" that makes sense a little bit more to me. But I also change that with I enjoy having the pile of stuff out there like I do, as you guys know, because there's a lot of people that know how I run it. They know that I don't take requests, and they know it's going to get sold eventually. And they know there's probably other stuff they're going to be interested in. If it's cheap enough, they'll throw bids in. They'll enjoy the environment you create, the entertainment. Everyone loves the bickering between me and M very frequently, and keeps them entertained until we get around the items that they want to buy. So to me, that's a pile of stuff that keeps the people there, because 5 people might want this item, 10 people might want that item, 15 people may want this item. That's a lot of people that starts adding up that want that item, and know you're running at a fast enough pace that you're going to eventually get to it. And unless they get bored with what's going on in its entirety, or they're then you're going to lose them. But as a generalized, top-down perspective, in my opinion, that lends to people staying in your room more than leaving, and being willing to bid on more items throughout the duration of your show. So. And
Cher makes a good point. When people are taking requests, they're requesting the best stuff that's in that pile on the screen. What's left over, the stuff that no one wants.
Right.
And specifically the jewelry category, I can relate this to palettes a little bit, but not so much vintage, because you're not going to have hundreds upon hundreds and hundreds of things out on the screen in vintage a lot of times. But with jewelry, it's once you start taking requests and now they're starting to fly, you got 300-400 pieces out on the screen before you, and it turns into chaos fast.
Not
so fast.
Not just chaos, time. The time that it takes for someone who is requesting, so a few nights back before North Carolina, I did a watch show. Okay. I took a post office tote. It was laying on its side, and you could see 400 watches. How long do you think it's going to take me to find that one watch that someone is requesting that's sitting up on the top right, or halfway down, or buried underneath 3? Because I'm going to tell you what. See the band. Because I'm telling you what. Those buyers can zoom in and see stuff that I have no idea it's even out there, right? The time that it takes, personal experience here, that it takes me to find the one item that they're looking for is a waste of my time.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to be a jerk about it, or an ass, but if my goal is to run 50 items an hour, and it takes 8 to 10 seconds to stop my show and search for that one item, and now I have to do it 14 times in an hour, I've just lost 15, 18 sales.
8 to 10 seconds. You're blind ass. Sorry. You're blind, but it takes like 4 minutes.
It does. And I mean, but the reality is, someone who knows what they're doing, 10 seconds to think that they've found the item, show it. Oh, no, not that one. 2 over, 1 up. So now you got to go back and do it. You've wasted time.
You have, except for in Tracy's environment.
And it makes a difference in the selling.
I was going to say, in a volume environment, in my environment, it's the time suck that hurts my overall show.
Yeah, it's in a live sort environment, I would say.
Correct. Just volume. I mean, because my goal is that, I'm just going to random it, and I'm going to random hopefully 200 to 300 pieces in a show, right? But if I have to stop every 6 minutes and lose a half a minute to 4 minutes looking for one, now I either have to stay on an hour and a half later, or I'm going to sell less that day, right?
And I'm going to add on to this with Tracy, with like your shows, right? You have 100 items and they're all displayed out on that shelf, right? And none of them are very similar. So it's very easy for me to say, hey, can you run that brass candle holder with the blue handle? And you're like, yeah. And you turn around and you run it. It's not.
You don't have 18 of those brass candle holders back there and you got to figure out which one.
Exactly. And here's the thing with this. I don't think I necessarily agree with the leftover comment. I could see if they're asking for bangers. I don't have, if you're looking at like 80 items in a show, there's probably a good 20 that are good. Like you said, there's not every single one is going to be a high value item. There's going to be a subset of those that are your high value items. And if I have the ones that in my head are like, okay, these are the ones that I expect really to see some bidding on, I don't have a problem saying, I'm going to get to that. I'll get to that hen on a nest. We're getting there. With those ones, I don't have a problem. Like I can stand firm and be like, we're going to get there. Just give it some time. It's all the other items when they request it. The show I just had on Saturday, they requested some blue and white teacups that to me were like, I mean, I would have been happy with $5 on them. Like they weren't nothing that spectacular. So to me, those would have been a leftover item, but that was what the request was for. So, and I kind of feel, I have this whole feeling of if somebody's requesting, this is somebody with their wallet in their hand, ready to hand over money. A request, they are this far from hitting that bid button, that swipe button. All they need is to see that item. All they need is for you to hit go, and you've got their money. Why are we making them wait? Why am I making them wait for that?
I will ask you this, and I'm going to go first. I will ask you this. Are they the only one with their wallet in hand for that item ready to go?
Probably not.
Maybe not.
Do you have the second person in there to bid it up? And my environment writes the dollar starts, right? So I need 2 people who are requesting that item. I need 2 who want that item. Do I have 2?
And if you have an entertaining show and you make them wait, who's to say why they have their wallet in their hand? They might not buy 2 or 3 more items along the way.
Correct. While they know it's coming, they see it on the screen. Oh, I'm going to go ahead and pick that one up. Oh, that's a good one. I'm going to pick 2, 3, 5 items up before I get to that, rather than just buying the one item that they want and then skedaddling out.
Possibly.
I have more of a question for Tracy, because I mean we us 3 have a completely different type of where it's kind of like
Poor
comparing
Tracy,
apples to oranges. They're both fruit.
It's okay.
They're both fruit, but a different. So my curiosity is, and I agree completely. I've talked about on my chat show when you started talking about, you enlightened me to a different perspective of doing that. Tears down a barrier to bidding, barrier to buying when you offer that. But you just mentioned earlier, and I wasn't sure if it's just a phase or you're starting to see a trend and a difference of that opinion, because you said you were thinking about reevaluating it because you think stuff's going lower for some reason when people. I don't know if you elaborated and I just missed it, but what was the thought process behind why you think that that's the case right now?
I've just noticed a few recent requests. Like if I'm looking back over, like, say, the last 8 or 9 shows, when there's a request, the item, people tend not to bid against each other. I get less bids than what I would normally expect to see if I'm just running that item in the normal course of time. I kind of feel that as a group kind of gels, people may back off a little bit. I mean, I know I do it. If I'm in a room and it's me, I Love Discounts, and Southern Charm, and we're all bidding on the same item, sometimes I'll be like, Southern Charm can have it.
Mm-hmm. Bid my butt out.
I know, but I know, like, there's no friends in auctions and all of that. But there is a true
but there is
sense to that.
That's what I call shadow collusion.
Yeah.
And I was going to ask you that. Like, do you think when you're running for a long period of time, and this is kind of, I know we're kind of off the top, but this is actually really interesting to me.
This is good.
The more we think about this, you're doing stuff at random that the people don't, your crowd doesn't have the opportunity to really lock in on that. It still happens to me, and I know it. There's times that I see two people bidding on something right out of the gate and then it's the one person stops, and I'm like, I know that person would pay more, but they're lending respect to the other person.
Yep.
They're not going to say it in the chat, but they are not bidding on it because someone else is bidding on it that they know, and they're, which means it's nothing that they super want, but they decided not to bid against the person. They're not making it public. I call it quiet collusion or shadow collusion. Because they're not, publicly, crying out like, hey, I'm interested in that, and chatting with one another. And I'm wondering if that isn't something that happens, and it's a kind of like a speed bump in the road with smaller chats you hear me talk about the Cheers environment, everyone really gets to know one another. And the more you're bringing the same type of product to cater to what they want, the more each person knows what each person's thresholds are and what they want. And then next thing you know, without saying it, but doing it, you're might be suffering from that. But how would that lend? I'm curious if that would be the case. Would that even lend to an attribute to the allowing people to choose or the request? Like, why would the request cause that to happen? Is what I'm kind of thinking now. Like they would do that whether you're running straight through. Now, wouldn't really have the request factor wouldn't be an indicator of that.
Let me throw in real quick before Tracy answers on that. I have seen it. I have done it. If someone has requested something, especially in a smaller show, if someone has requested something, I probably do not make a bid on it.
Makes sense.
He lies. He lies.
Well, no.
He will purposely bid up people that request things.
But I can see that as an attribute. I see what he's saying.
Yes.
That's
just
an
depends
attribute
on how
of a lot
much
of
of an
people.
ass they are, right? But if say Millie, and I don't know who Millie is, she's completely somebody brand new. If Millie's in the same room as I am, and I'm just kind of checking it out or whatever, if she requests something, unless I really want it, I'm probably not going to bid on it just because she asked for it. And I've done that many times. Now, depending on how they asked for it or how they've been in the room, I might bid them up a little bit just because they're a pain in the butt. But for the most part, I'll kind of back away.
So essentially, the request is the flag to the friends of this is what I'm interested in.
Kind of, yeah.
Don't throw a bid or two in on it.
I think Cher said it really great in the chat. She said they licked the brownie. I'm not going to bid on it now.
Yeah,
and I think there's kind of that sentiment there. I mean, I love that analogy. I think there is some of that sentiment going on.
I kind of like the wish list, just flat out saying, "Yeah, I do that."
Yeah, see,
With Jody's idea, yeah.
And I don't think it's an all or nothing. Like the example I used before. If I'm selling, milk glass, and somebody says, "Hey, do you have some more milk glass?" But I see that it's bidding up. That's a different scenario than somebody saying, hey, can you run this specific item that's down the road, like of my pre-listed items? Because I still do randoms. Even though I've gone mainly back to pre-listing, at the beginning of Whatnot, I pre-listed everything. Then I did randoms for like the last year. And I'm back to pre-listing with about 10 or so randoms in there because I do still like some of that surprise element. So
absolutely.
Yeah. So I think it's not an all or nothing. I think it's play it by ear, because the other part that really got me thinking about this was the requester I felt rude in their request. I think there's a way to do it. I think there's etiquette that is getting lost. I mean, we talk about a younger generation in real life not knowing manners. My gosh, the people coming on Whatnot, like my last show, I just felt there were so many instances of rudeness that I was blown away, and I've never had a show like that before. So I think
I'm sad I missed it now.
Right?
Yeah. No, it gets to the point where it's almost like they just demand it. They're like, run that over there. Yeah. And it's just like, hey, could you at least ask, like, hey, do you mind if we... Yeah. Or I'm sure not just telling me like I'm just supposed to bend to your will and just do what you told me to do. Like
I'm sure most of them mean it nice, but it doesn't come off in the text, right?
Yeah.
Because, same as texting on the phone, that text in the chat just does not come off with emotion or feeling. It's like, RTS, right? Just run it. And I'm like,
I
easy
don't know.
trigger.
It was
I'm
pretty
getting there.
rude.
One of the things that you
After-
mentioned. Sorry, Tracy. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, after that request, it caught me so, literally, I've never had a request catch me so off guard. And it's one of those
Yeah.
things. This is why I'm a schedule it. I like to be prepared so that I kind of have in my head, hey, if this happens, here are some of the things I can say. I'm not a quick thinker on my feet. I like to have some pre-rehearsed replies. And that caught me so off guard that I'm like, I need to think through my request more. It was more of that demand. And I've just, to the point where I should have said, yeah, I have that item. What do you need to know about it? Like I should have just played on it, but it was just so in your face rude. So,
Well, my other question to you is that was it just, was that a one-off, or is it something you've just kind of noticed proliferate? It's kind
I'm
of
starting to notice
grow.
him a little bit more to the point where it's on my mind. It wasn't just a one-off. It was like,
So okay. So,
yeah.
Gotcha.
I think it's also part of the environment that is created during the show. I put a comment in the chat. If you go to the Star Wars category and you see how they operate, once the request is made, most of the times, the rest of the audience stays off of the bidding.
They won't
Unless
bid.
it's something that is a very hot item that more than one person wants.
Yeah, no, they won't. And
But
Star
they-
Wars.
they
That's
won't
great,
bid.
since I just bought, I don't know how many Star Wars items that I need to sell and whatnot. I had a whole van full I just bought.
I just
You're
see
gonna be in luck.
the chaos. I just see the chaos that it invites, specifically in jewelry, because there's so many items and they're small and it's hard to find them. And once you kind of break the wall and you take the first request and the second request, now you're 7 requests deep.
Yeah.
And it really is just chaos, and you're wasting time and I've heard Jeremy say it before in his Sunday chats, just hold out. I'm going to run everything on the screen.
Yep.
And if you just let me run it, we'll get to it faster than me going request by request by request. There is no, I will swipe out a jewelry show so fast when
As soon as they start
all that requests are jumping around and the time is wasted. I will jump out so fast.
Yes.
I have to agree with that. And I think it goes back to, are you running volume? Are you doing more of a niche show? I think there's different approaches depending on it, but I could totally see what you're saying in jewelry. That would drive me crazy.
And let me just reiterate what you just said, Tracy. Every seller's going to have their own way of doing things, right?
Oh, yeah.
We are just providing our opinion on how we sell. I am by no way, shape, or form saying that everyone out there should never take requests or run everything for $1 or run it in volume. Everybody has their different styles of selling here. This is what we're doing. We're giving our opinions on what we do and know. So don't take this as I'm telling you this is how you should do it. I'm just passionate about the things that annoy me.
Yeah. I would say that's in my opinion, you have chaos requests and structured requests. Like even in a jewelry show, you could have a bunch of different rings out there, but if you structured it and told, like if you decide to tell people like, hey, I'm taking requests, you can see from A to, C, and then numbers up there, and just say, just give me the coordinates of where you want, and that way you can just cruise and people can just be like, I want A7, and you pick it up and run it.
Yes.
And I will also say in the jewelry recently, I've seen a lot of, like, the first 5 minutes of the show is request, and they sit there and they pull the items really fast and they lay it out, and then they do a series of running those requests, and then they recycle it.
Yeah.
They do 5 minutes of requests again out of whatever. Now, I feel like most of these people don't have 200 items in front of them, though. It's more like there's 30 or 40 items in front of them.
Yeah.
But I have seen that a lot recently.
I have to. And I still think in that scenario, Jeremy, there's setup work pre-show.
Oh yeah.
That the seller has to get
100%. 100%. Now, I mean, I've done that on the fly in the past. I even stopped doing that because that was still, I just wasn't my comfort zone. But I've done that where I have a tray that I got, I open up the tray and there's rings. This is years ago, but it was fine. But for me, it just kind of started setting that expectation then that, oh, Jeremy's taking requests now. And then when I was done with the tray, they're like, okay, it's requests with it, whatever else is out there. So it just sent mixed signals for me. So I stopped doing that. But, it's, if you're doing something like that, like I said, with rings, or if you have trays where you can you see those the compartmentalized trays, those Riker, I think that's the glass top trays where they'll have like this section where you just put a bunch of brooches in and just put, okay, this is just grab some stickers or just write it along the sides. For that type of personality, I think it would work out, it'd be fine. But it's the worst is that chaos request situation. Like you were talking, you go to a jewelry show and they just have a pile of stuff out like I do or other people you see doing that, and you're like, all right, what's everybody want? And you're spending forever. So when it comes down to requests, my opinion is you're going to have the, scheduled type of personality traits attributed to it to make it successful. But I will say, just to back up there from it, I really enjoyed so far talking about this aspect of the collusion part that could be coupled with the request aspect. That really kind of sinks in for me, that people create an understanding then, like, hey, you're setting, you're throwing the flag up there that I want this, so I'm not going to bid on it. And now that creates like my brain. I want to go watch and see. I wish there was somewhere I could go and observe a difference, like somebody that does, enough of one and then switches over to the other. Most people want to do an experiment in it, but that's too long of an experiment. I have to do it for some time for people to get to the point where they would know each other so well that would start happening. Yeah.
So this might be, I don't even know if this pertains to you, Tracy, but I'm kind of looking at the notes I had for the downsides of each scenario. And one of the thing about scheduled shows or that scheduling as we're talking about, that we're pre-listing and running things in a very specific manner is the time that it takes to set up that show. And I know Jeremy's already talked about it, that type of show would feel very rigid and stress him out, where it calms you down. And that's always what kind of stopped Tony and me. And the third one is, if turnout is low, it feels like wasted effort, which is what I really suffered from for my Lux at Lunch show, is that I would take that time to pre-list those 5 items. And if I didn't sell an item during that hour, and Tony can tell you, I'd come off some of those shows pissed.
Many times she was upset at the time waste for nothing. And I was like, I told her, so look, this is something you have to build. It's something you have to do every day. It will get there. There were good days. Most were not good days. And she was pretty frustrated with it after 6 weeks.
Yeah. So, I mean, I know you could really answer to that because you've done both.
And so I think, first off, just to answer your question, I think there's a vast difference between your Lux for Lunch show versus the way that I'm pre-listing. I pre-list everything at $1, and yours were more higher end. So I think just the starting bid price almost takes a comparability out of that.
100%.
So for me, pre-listing, I spent about a total of maybe an hour and a half, about an hour doing photos. Let's say 2 hours, about an hour doing photos. I do the CSV upload, so it's super quick upload. I do very minimal descriptions. I'm not writing a book on these things. I'm not doing a lot of research. I may research 2 or 3 items. One's just to give me something to talk about when I'm selling, just to know something about them sometimes. So an hour photographing, doing the CSV upload. I put usually measurements. That's the only thing I put in descriptions because I hate measuring on screen. And then about 30 minutes to arrange my shelf. But arranging my shelf is actually easier for me now because I bring it up on my phone. I already have it in the order I want, because before, in that Excel file, before I upload it, I look at the items and I put them in the order that I want them to be in. And so I can just easily take an item, I'm looking at my phone, and just place them. So this pre-setup to me is not a lot. Now, 2 hours to some people might sound like, oh my God, that's a lot. However, I have been getting pre-bids. It's every show that I'm pre-listing, I'm getting pre-bids, and do something that I've heard Jeremy talk a lot about. I strongly feel that when they pre-bid, one, they come to the show. It's almost a guarantee. I mean, I know you could pre-bid and put your max bid in and never show up, but they're not. I'm not seeing that. I'm seeing pre-bids and then they're there. It also creates that ownership. The minute you pre-bid, that creates that ownership, which then counteracts that. Oh, well, Sally wants it. Well, Sally's my friend. It kind of counteracts that thing that we were just talking about, because you don't know who else is pre-bidding. So the pre-bids may just, at a dollar item, get up to $5-6 before I run it, but you have a couple of people that are buying into this item already. So I'm seeing the benefits of it. I think they're getting excited. It allows them to see the bangers that I have, or the really higher end items. My husband's telling me there's a comment that relates to what we're saying. It's very easy to swipe out of shows if I didn't see anything. True. I don't know. I'm seeing benefit from the pre-listing since I've gone back to it. I mean, I was a huge believer in pre-listing, and I got away from it when I went to dollar starts. And then I was like, I kind of got lazy, kind of got, hey, this does take time. I can spend my time better in other places. I'm seeing a benefit of it though. So I'm going to keep doing it. I think that 2 hours is well worth it to me. I do think Kate's comment is interesting, that it's easy to swipe out of shows if I don't see anything in the pre-listed I like. And that right there is the whole reason I still do some random, is that exact thing, and make sure that I'm mentioning, hey, I still got some random items back here I'm going to be getting to pretty soon. So I try to, as much as I can, harness the best of both worlds.
Yeah. I just have a little side note on that, maybe a little suggestion for people that do that, because I think that's a valid point Kate's bringing up, that I think a lot of people go in and like, oh, so this is what they have.
100%.
If you put in your little chats when they come in, you put a little note in there, it says plus, like some type of reference that there will be more than what's, over there in the pre-listed items. Because I'd be the same way. If I went around and I'd go in and be like, okay, I see what they got. Don't need to bother going there. So
I've done it. I have swiped in a room, looked at the pre-listed stuff, and been like, I'm not interested in anything, and go along my merry way to another show. So I have done that.
Yeah.
I have another question, and you might not be able to answer this. Do you think sourcing could take extra time when you're being so specific about what you're wanting to source versus someone that is going to go in and be like, what do you want for the whole table? I'm just going to sell it all.
Possibly. I think they're just inherently there may be more extra time there, but I also find for me and my personality type, it is very freeing. It allows me to make those split minute decisions when I'm in a store. I don't research a lot. I don't look things up. I have boundaries. Does it fit in the box? I mean, can I ship it easily? Is it in the price range that I can make money off of it? And does it fit in one of my upcoming shows? And it's so easy for me to walk through. I do, power runs through my antique store, 30 minutes, hit this certain booths that I know are good booths for me, and get back out when I need to source fast. So to me, it's more of having those boundaries allows me to move faster in it. However, I could see that. I mean, when you're doing the onesies and picking up item by item, inherently, there's more time in that than buying a whole big lot at once.
And the good thing for you is you run on a 6-week show cycle. So you've got 6 weeks with 5 or 6 different categories that you're looking for stuff. So
I've actually just shortened it down to 4. So starting May timeframe, I'm going down to 4. So
Chloe shows every 4 weeks. What? Sorry.
I would go in there and say that from another standpoint, on a tick in favor of what Tracy's talking about, you're restricted as far as space goes too.
Yes.
Yeah.
So being in that type of environment, if you really think about it, you could end up eating up so much, other resources if you decide to buy a huge pile of stuff and you don't have the space for it. Then you start talking about, quick space is expensive space. Like if you have to go find a place to put it, store it, shuffle it, move it, either whether that's cluttering up your home environment or renting storage units, all that kind of stuff starts becoming costly and time intensive as well. So, I mean, I think if you look at it from a super broad perspective, buying an entire pile of stuff could end up costing you just as much time if you don't have the ability on the back end to handle it. Like me, I have a lot of extra space in a warehouse, and I got tractor trailer trucks that, have space to put stuff in. So that's not an issue for me. So buying large quantities of stuff is not a problem.
I do want to go back though, really quick though, because my goal is to buy larger quantities of stuff. We have markets starting up here pretty soon, about another 3 weeks. We're going to have a Saturday market. And I'm watching you today. I'm like, I need to go to my market. I need to employ some of this to get more items, because sourcing is getting more difficult. I mean, so I need to expand my vendors just like everybody else does. Part of that comes back to the scheduling or the pre-planning. I think if you really take some time to think through, what am I selling? What am I doing? How am I structuring my shows? What am I going to sell? When am I going to sell it? How I'm going to source it? Like, you really think through that. Only 2 of my 4 shows are very specific shows, Primitive and Glowy. They have to be very, very specific categories. The other 2 are very broad, Elegant and Timeless and Warm Embrace. I can stretch almost any item I pick up into one of those 2 categories purposely. So I kind of give myself that freedom. So I think, again, it comes back to me sitting down and thinking through at the beginning of the year, how am I going to structure a show that people can look forward to and expect and know that this is coming and this is their aesthetic, this is their design style? My husband's like, don't forget reverse auctions. That's kind of the oddball. That's not a regular kind of rotation. That's
You can throw anything in there too.
Yeah, I can throw anything in a reverse auction. Those are usually the higher priced items. Yeah. So it's the planning, it's the scheduling, it's thinking through these. Okay, well, how does this fit in with my sourcing? To me, this ties right back into our main topic of being a planner. If I were to wing it and just go and start buying anything I like, which is how I did it when I first started Whatnot, I went and bought what I thought was pretty or nice or this without a lot of thought and plan. I had a lot of stuff that didn't sell, and a lot of stuff that I ended up either donating or letting go far below what it should have gone for. So that structure, that scheduling it, and that kind of structure side of it, to me, plays all the way through on how I'm sourcing and what is selling and what isn't.
And, kind of going more on post-show, while we try to be more chaotic in our shows and we wing it more often than not, I do have a tendency when things get bid up in our show, I will go back the next day and I will go rewatch the video receipt to see exactly what it was, so I can learn for sourcing for the next shows. And while we do aim to source in bulk, that doesn't mean I'm not looking for particular pieces within those bulk lots that I know that will do well on our show and that have been bid up in the past. Yeah. So, it's not completely like 100% an hour before the show, we're running necklaces, let's just do it. and we run it, we ship it, and that's all. There's definitely some
there's some thought and processes to the inventory that we bring to the show.
Yes.
It's the same, like, I won't chase trends, but I'll take advantage of a trend. If I come across something that I know is hot, if a B box falls in my lap right now, it's going to be on my next show and I'll be making a mint on it. Let's just face it. B boxes are the new hot ticket item.
B boxes? Like carpenter B boxes?
No, like the glass with the bees on it. Like they're glass, like little trinket candy dishes, and they have bees on it. They're going $200-$300 a piece now. They're the big thing, big ticket item.
Interesting. There's a note I need to take at that, but yeah.
So are Hens on the Nest already out?
I think they're on a decline, and they're on a decline because of all the imports that came in. So Whatnot has been hit with this huge import Hen on a Nest. So if you've got real ones and you could really show that they're the real ones, you're still going to make good money on them. But I think they're on the decline. B boxes are going to be the next big. Everybody wants to get those, and that'll last for a few months. But I think it kind of goes back to what you're saying. Heck, if I'm at the store and I see a deal on one, I'm going to pick one up. I'm not going out just to try to buy them because they're popular.
Correct. Yeah. I have a question.
Oh, go ahead.
No, this isn't really on. It's a little off topic. I heard you in what you were saying, something about it's getting harder for you to source. Mm-hmm. my curiosity is, has everyone been feeling that? And I want to talk about this on on the platform itself one of these Sundays, because I've been hearing that. And not only have I been hearing it, I've been hearing it because it's an actual whatnot factor.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Especially in places like Florida and stuff. It's apparently getting very competitive in certain areas as a result of a proliferation in whatnot sellers.
My personal opinion to that is, I think it depends on what it is you're selling. So if you sell storage units, there's lots more storage unit buyers. So there's not a shortage of storage units. It's just the price. The price has increased. Because
same with pallets.
Same with pallets, and we ran into those same types of issues.
I'm not saying that when I say harder, that's what I mean. Like harder to get stuff for.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah.
Because if whether the same amount of merchandise out there, it's out there, but is it out there for you to be able to make money off of, or are other people snagging it up and vacuuming up all the opportunity out there before you even get a chance? Like very competitive in sourcing. I've noticed in the elements that I don't partake in sourcing, but my business partner Shane still sits and buys stuff at auction. There's sometimes you can hardly touch anything.
Correct.
In comparison to where that was not the case that long ago. I mean, that's coming, I guess, from a twofold aspect where some of the valuations, because whatnot was so new, and you get, contrary to what some people would say, higher prices for certain types of merchandise than you would elsewhere. That is now going through the kind of like coming out in the wash where, there's a lot more of it on there. Like we were just talking about the hens on the nest, a whole bunch of stuff comes in from another. But the same thing would happen if everyone capitalized on the hens of the nest, all of them that are out there, which there are a lot, start coming to whatnot because that's where they're selling for good money. It drives down the value, which then makes it essentially harder for you to source for profit. So I was just curious because I heard it was just a real quick thing you mentioned, Tracy, when you were talking about scheduling. That it's getting harder for you to sourcing is getting harder. I was just curious what attribute or what that comment came from, like what perspective that came from for you.
I think it's twofold. So I do the majority of my sourcing comes from online auctions. I work 9 to 5, and as much as I want to be out there, beating the pavement and meeting people, I'm limited in my time. So I do a ton of my sourcing online through various online auctions. The other sourcing is Goodwill, thrift stores, little flea markets, estate sales. Don't get me started. I hate estate sales now. But so I'm seeing one at Goodwill, the prices are going up. So same with other thrift stores, because they know we're all going there shopping to buy stuff, and they're going to capitalize on the market too. They're not stupid. They're a business. They're going to raise their prices. More power to them. They're just doing what they need to do for them. But it's also driving to where for resale, I'm having a hard time finding even odds and ends there to buy. And then on online auctions, where I would normally go to an auction and come home with, 20, 30, 40 lots of merchandise, of things, I'm lucky now to be getting 5 to 10 lots at an auction. And I'm still trying to run the same number of shows, and I'm not able to get the same amount of stuff at auction at a decent price that I can make a profit on. That's part of my reason that we're, almost going to say no to jewelry anymore. Like right now we have no more jewelry shows. I can't get jewelry at a decent price, even with the vendors that I have. The prices are still good, but I'm not turning around and making the prices on whatnot. So it just seems, I feel like I'm getting hit, and I don't feel like I'm the only one from every single angle, that it's just more and more difficult. So I'm constantly now kind of looking for new ways and trying to be more creative in my sourcing.
Yeah, and I'm telling you right now that it's affecting. That's why I talked about what I did this morning. Because my sources have decided they need to start charging more for stuff for some reason, and I've been noticing a incremental increase on a consistent basis. So, I
know our local auctions are also getting higher priced over the last year or two. We contributed the one to a couple eBay buyers that have moved in and that can pay more than what we can.
Yep.
And then, we've talked about it. We're not in a very populated place, and it's very poor on top of that. So you've really got to hunt or go out of town where we live, and we have the issue with our brick and mortar store. But
Yes.
I can say when we go out of town, we typically don't have a problem. Not yet.
Not yet.
I mean,
Mm.
and when you think about it, the trouble that I noticed, I started having a hard time around November. It was November, December. It was kind of like, it was really probably started before then, but around November, December is when I really started to get concerned about it. And, it's only gotten worse as the months have gone on. That's part of the reason I'm now pre-listing, because I now need to say, okay, if I can't get the quantity of inventory that I need, I mean, I'm still getting enough for shows. I can still run 80 to 100 items, but it's getting harder and harder. So I need to do something before it gets that I can't run 80 to 100 items. I need to change now or think about how to adapt. So part of my thing is, okay, if I'm going to have to put out more money, I'm not going to put out, I'm going to go for higher end items. If I'm going for higher end items, let's start getting people used to pre-listing and getting them to buy into that, that item before I run it. So it's just kind of this different mindset of, instead of running a bunch of random things, even if it is under a theme, I'm going to be pre-listing now higher end items, hopefully getting higher bids because of that, due to the limited sourcing or having to spend more and buy higher end from what I'm, the auctions that I'm buying at. So it's, I don't think I'm all the way there yet. I'm still kind of working my way through this. And, it's a continual growth. As all of us are business owners, it's a continual growth of adapting and changing and strategically adjusting to what's happening around you. And I'm right in the middle of that right now because of the sourcing.
Yeah, it only makes sense that I'm kind of, we're like basically sourcing neighbors. We're right, you're not that far from me. So that's the other reason I was kind of interested to hear what you have to say, because you're right next door essentially. So
I have a question, and maybe I'm way ahead of myself here, but whatnot buyers are still mainly resellers, right? There's still a higher percentage of resellers buying on whatnot than there is end users. And I also know that eBay doesn't sell nearly as fast, or the other static listing platforms. So what is happening with all this stuff? Is it just getting stored away like a typical eBay seller would end up having storage and 6,000 listings? Is what is happening with this stuff that is being sold on whatnot? And does that mean, will there be a circle of, now they're overwhelmed with stuff and they got to sell out, and here comes another whatnot seller, like, I'll buy it all?
Yes, to the second. Because the same thing happened before when eBay came around, and you had the old school sellers, and honestly, that's like this market. It's very circular. I remember being really young, working for my grandfather's auction house, and I'm just like, what do people do with all this stuff? What happens? And that's exactly the same type of thing. People would set up at flea markets. They would sell to other dealers that would take it to their showcases at, antique malls and stuff like that. And then eventually, once they didn't make the money they wanted, they would sell it to another dealer that might take it to another state and sell it where there's a market for it. But it just kind of, but
circles around.
Well, it is, but that's our entire economy. I mean, we're not going to get into that discussion, but there's not a problem with it. It has worked for years and years. It's not going to stop working. But yeah, we're just hitting that effect where I call whatnot, it's essentially the old school eBay. And I've heard it referenced that way. And the people like us that have been through the eBay, the Amazon cycles, and now it's the whatnot cycle or the live selling cycle, luckily, being 15 years in business, I was just talking about this earlier today, I recognize the opportunity and also know that it is not going to, just like all the other ones, it's not going to last forever. Taking the opportunity while it's here, I'm going as hard on the platform as I possibly can, and as much time frame that it's going to allow for it. Right. Especially, again, a whole nother topic, since whatnot's not moving in the direction I think for additional monetization opportunities that it could move into, that would lead to a longer and expanded monetization opportunities or income opportunities for a longer period of time. I'm going to keep going as much as I can, as fast as I can, until I, see a reason to slow down. And that's why, because I've seen it happen now. A bunch of, this cycle come about several times. Where my younger years, when I first saw eBay, you think that you're just like, oh, it's going to be around here forever. And I just keep selling anything and everything for good money. And obviously that's not the case anymore. I mean, there was a day eBay, very similar to Whatnot, already in Whatnot, it's not the same. Like early on in Whatnot, you could sell plain, simple cut glass that had chips and cracks and breaks all over it for money. And now nobody, you're not going to get any money for it, just like you can't put it on eBay and get any money. But there was a day just a few short years ago where you could sell that almost anything and everything on Whatnot, just because it was a new environment. It was a new shiny penny of ways to buy. So,
but it's also the proliferation of platforms that are allowing the live selling structure. Facebook is one of them. Instagram is another one. TikTok is another one. And there's other applications like Palm Tree District. Yeah. There's more and more and more that are coming into the arena that are not necessarily just Whatnot. It's also part of the market. And then so if you buy something on Whatnot, you might end up selling it somewhere else in a different platform. So
I'm curious here. I don't really have chat. Did we have any questions to field today, or has it just been pretty much? Because I'm just curious.
Really.
Okay, all right. Just curious. So.
Just a comment from Kate that she got apparently her account was hacked, and she got suspended and whatnot.
Who, Kate did?
Kate,
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, she said she had someone bidding on her account on Monday. She contacted Whatnot, canceled the orders, and now they think she's a scammer. Gotta love them.
Well, we'll pivot, but I will say this, Kate. You know how to get a hold of me. I'll be more than happy to help you in any way, shape, or form I can. So, but I guess we should probably get back to our regular schedule program here. Yeah. I could turn into a likely offshoot conversation. But
yes,
Gretchen, there are so many different styles amongst the platforms, but I think all of it and just the growth of live selling is causing, it's directly affecting how we source.
So Tracy,
yeah.
Oh, sorry. Your morning chat shows that you have now, your what are they called? Chat and sell shows. Mm-hmm. How do you feel that they're doing?
You know what? I learned something that was very surprising, and something just kind of came up naturally that I didn't expect to happen. So I pre-list 10 items, and I have a bunch of stuff in the bin. So the items in the bin I mark up. They're at a really good price. I'm going to make a profit off of them. They're not ridiculous, but they're the things I'm going to make a profit off of. I list 10 things to start at $1 in the auction. And again, the only reason I was putting things in the auction was okay, when I need a break, when I need to think through, okay, what can I talk about next? Here's a good break for me. It was a kind of an out for myself. But I'm finding that they are now becoming while it's not a lot, a staple cash flow for me every Monday and Wednesday, where I'm selling 4, 5, 6 items out of the bin, and I only run the stuff that has pre-bids. I just was amazed by the fact that people will pre-bid, I run it, it gets bid up. Are they selling super high items? No, they're small, lower cost items to begin with on purpose, so I don't have a lot of shipping. But if there's not a pre-bid, the first few days that I did, first few shows, I would try to run that. It would sell for $1. So now I don't even run them if there's no pre-bids. And I just put them back in the bin. And usually by the next show, maybe 2 shows later, they sell. At the end of the month, I'd throw them all into one show, sell it out, and start fresh with another 50 or 60 items at the first of every month. And it's working really well. So that's on the selling side. On the talking side, it has been so beneficial to me. It has been such a tool for me to be able to talk. I'll surprise myself and look up and I'm like, man, I've been on for an hour and a half already. So I still have my moments. I still will have my days, and I don't do notes like I do for all the rest of my shows, but I will jot down 2 or 3 questions to ask the chat or just hot topics to talk about. just to kind of give myself a little comfort without a script. And I'm by no means am I a master at small talk at all, but it's working. The more you practice something, you can learn other ways. And this is what I said at the very beginning. If you're a wing it person, you can learn to be more scheduled when needed to be. And if you're a schedule person, you can learn to wing it. So it's not just all who you are. These are learnable skills. I run, Reworkers Passion says, I run my talk show the same way, items in the buy now and only run pre-bids. Yeah, it seems to be really successful for some reason. It's just one of those factors that I never considered or thought, and it just kind of happened. And I'm like, okay, this is pretty cool. We're going to go with it. So
I think it also, and this is kind of off topic, but I think it also kind of folds into your greater goals with your business in the future. They tend to end up being almost seller support shows.
Almost.
Almost.
Yeah.
And but I feel like that feeds into your other goals with your other shows very, very well. So I know that was kind of off topic, that comment, but
I think we're at the off topic stage. We're good.
Yeah. I loved seeing the growth of them. It's been really cool.
I'm surprised by the number of people I'm seeing in there. So much so that, I'm super big on talking about an anchor show. You have to have your anchor show. However, sometimes change is necessary. So my Saturday at 4:00, I've been doing that show for going on 2 years now. We are actually moving to 8 a.m. in the morning because my morning shows seem to bring more people than my afternoon or my evening shows. And I've done enough
build on
now.
your core audience that you've built.
Yeah.
And you can shift anchor shows.
You can, but I think
I'm in the process of thinking about doing that at the moment. I was telling you guys earlier.
Yeah.
So
if you have the data to support it, I mean, I'm not one to, okay, let's just do shows whenever at any other time. I think you have to have some data, but I've been watching, and it's been since about January. I started asking in January. I started bringing it up to Noelle, and I was like, Saturdays aren't it. Saturdays at 4 aren't it. And it was right after Christmas, and we're like, I don't tend to believe in seasonality, but people spend a lot of money at Christmas time. So I'm like, is it Christmas? Let's wait. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. And after every Saturday show, I'm like, I'm getting closer and closer to my decision. And we've just bit the bullet, and I went and rescheduled all my Saturday shows. Now's the time.
Another 8 a.m. Yeah. I know I tend to catch a lot of your shows because they are early morning. And that is when I'm available to just kind of peruse around Whatnot. And, actually I talked about that a lot in North Carolina at the Whatnot sellers meetup. People had been like, well, I haven't seen you around in a while. And I said, it's not just you. I promise. I said, in general, I've decided to kind of turn off Whatnot during working hours. So if you're not on at 7 in the morning, I don't really catch you.
Yeah, coffee time is Whatnot time for a lot of people.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah.
But kudos to you for being able to run that early. Oh,
it's scheduling. Surprise, surprise.
It's so
what time do you run? What is that we're talking about? Because I don't.
I run at 7, normally 7 in the morning, Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 7 a.m. And now my Saturdays will be 8 a.m. I must sleep in a little bit.
People talk about this. This is my own personal opinion again, and I think what Tracy's saying lends to this. People talk about trying to catch the evening so they can catch the entirety of the country. I think that there's the early morning opportunity is bigger than people realize.
Oh yeah.
I think the overnight is better than people realize.
My goal, well, not goal, but one of the directions I was wanting to go until you realize that staffing becomes the problem of the barrier to getting it done, was running an evening into the night show. Mm-hmm. Because I think the same thing. I think that, you start getting into the late nights and then creeping into that super early morning crowd. You're catching a lot of people that are void of opportunity for enjoyment, entertainment, for buying, that kind of stuff. That really hits home for a lot of those people. Right. The second shifters, the third shifters, all that, they live essentially kind of a little bit of a different life than most.
Correct.
And that provides them with the opportunity. So,
hey, and I've said it in the past, and we've talked back in health and beauty and the ability to buy truckloads, I wanted a 24/7 show. I know, not Tony and Lysandra, but we were really talking about having 3 shifts and running it 24/7. Whatnot has grown so much that it doesn't matter the time of day anymore. Are there more people on prime time? Sure. Are there? Do we think there are more people on at 7 a.m. over coffee time? Sure.
I see plenty of shows at 2 a.m. in the morning Eastern time that have 200-300 people in them.
For
Yeah.
5 o'clock in the morning, there's still 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 people in jewelry. They're on 24/7, and it doesn't matter.
But I think some of it does come back to what you're selling or maybe your style of show. I don't know exactly what it is because like Millicent made a comment, and thank you, Millie. I appreciate that comment. That was super sweet. I can have 60 or 70, sometimes 80 people at 7 a.m. for a tax show in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
I struggle to get 15 to 20 at 6:30 in the evening. And I've been doing them now, for 2 or 3 months during this whole tax season. I have about 3 left and I won't be doing Friday nights anymore, but they don't show up at night. Like the exact same topic,
You've been doing your Monday night tax show for 2 or 3 months now?
No, the Monday night's totally different. That's a completely different one. But I've been doing just the tax, like open ask a CPA, any questions?
Yeah.
Purposely on in the evening to catch the California people, and they're not coming in there.
Yeah.
Hmm.
The early
In the
morning
evenings.
is better for the chat shows, I think.
In the evenings, but I could talk about it in the morning and get a very full room.
Yeah, well,
yeah, I've seen Tracy with 80 people in a room talking about taxes at 7 o'clock in the morning.
I'm just going to throw my perspective out on there. If I was going to undertake a tax show, it would be when my brain can handle it, and that would be in the morning. At the end of the day, in the evening, the last thing I'm thinking about wanting to do is talk about taxes.
Me too, most of the time.
Yeah. So
eating the frog. Nice one.
I mean, I get it. That's what I do. I get my coffee. I turn on Whatnot. I go to your show, and I sit there and I get through my emails and messages that might have come in overnight, and that's my morning routine. Yeah. So I get it. It's sometimes it's hard to get my mind around the numbers. Sometimes when you get into it though, that early.
Sometimes, yeah. That's why I have.
Yeah, see, I'm the opposite. That's when I would be willing. That's when my brain would be like, "Yep, I can. I'm up. I'm ready to rock and roll." So
for anybody that doesn't know, when are your tax shows, Tracy?
So Friday morning at 7 a.m. we do business, an hour of business, an hour of a tax topic. It is a 52-week schedule. They do build on each other, but they also are good as a standalone show. But the concepts build. They go quarterly. That's Friday mornings. Monday evenings is Ledger to Leadership, which is an accounting course. We are going into week 4. It is a 12-week accounting course. I am teaching accounting. It is reseller focused, what you need to know to keep your books. And then for the next 3 weeks, Friday night at 6:30, we have Purely Come Ask a CPA any tax questions. There you go. There's my elevator pitch right there on tax.
yeah, and to the topic of the conversation, there's no way you'd be able to do that without being a scheduled. Like, there's no winging those. There's
100%
those shows. That ain't happening. So,
what else?
What do you guys think? Yep. Do buyers actually prefer chaos, or do they just say they do?
Well, I think there's buyers that do, and there's buyers that don't, and then there's buyers that say they do. I think that's just, and don't. And vice versa. I think there's buyers that say they don't, but actually enjoy it more than they realize and don't want to admit to it. I mean, I think there's every aspect of that. When you're talking about how many people in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, there's people that are in my show on a regular basis saying that they like when shows are not the way I do them. Like, they're not telling me to change, but like, I'll be in my chat show and I'll notice they'll say something I like it when people do this, and they're in my show almost every single, like, at least, once to 3 times a week.
Right.
You know, and they're so there. You know, that's my answer to your question. I don't know if anyone has anything
They
different.
might not like the chaos, but they like what might show up.
If we go to the basics, though, the consistency of scheduling shows, I mean, I don't think winging it. I don't know. I will always be on the side of a scheduled show. Comment from Gretchen. I got up at 7 a.m. or I got 7 a.m. clock set on Sunday mornings. How many people, just in the chat, how many people were ready at 8 o'clock this morning and Jeremy wasn't on? I was working on some stuff. I was sitting at my desk and I was ready. I'm like, what's going on? And the first thing I thought was, oh, he forgot to schedule it at the right, like the time change. And then like, I sat there for an hour waiting. I think it is huge that the consistency in the scheduled shows is so huge. And we see it in those comments all the time of, oh, you weren't on. Where were you? I find it so contradictory on Whatnot that all you hear is reschedule your shows. It's okay. Reschedule. It's such this contradictory message that's constantly getting put out there. And it can't be both ways. I mean, it can't. It has to be one or the other.
I'm going to back Tracy up on this, specifically with Jeremy's Sunday chat shows. I can't remember when. It's been a while ago, but he did not show up or do a Sunday chat show, and it was like
off.
His core audience was like, "What am I going to do?"
Yeah.
And I did like they did, and I kind of wandered around Whatnot, and we'd see each other in everybody else's show, and literally it was the talk of like at least the 15 different shows I was in that morning. So Tracy and I talked about it and we're like, hey, next time this happens, let's just kind of be funny and let's do an emergency Sunday random rambling. And we did. And kudos to Tracy because she is the type that likes to have it all planned out where I'm very spontaneous. So for me, I'm like, let's do it. Go live. And
what are we talking about?
She
Who
was
knows?
really with it. And it was a blast, actually, I think.
It was good. Yeah.
And it ended up being fairly successful as just this pop-up random show because Jeremy wasn't on and no one didn't know what to do with
Did
themselves.
you do it was it that day you did it? The day that I was
Not that first.
not the first
second time
Not the
you
first
missed.
time. It
Yeah.
was the second time.
that I didn't have a Sunday. So what you're saying is I got a lot of free publicity in other shows by not going on that day.
100% you did.
Absolutely did. There was a lot of Green 13 chat.
Because I'd
So,
run into this show and we'd talk about it, and then I'd run into another show and we'd end up talking about it. And I know it wasn't just me. There was probably 20 different, 30, 40 people that was happening with.
On a other note to that is, since consistency is so key, and I talk about this, the mistake I made, and I say this too, go with your gut. I wanted to put a comment in there. Yes, it actually starts at 9 in the thing, but I got caught up in what I was doing. I forgot all about it. And then once I got to the flea market, I'm going around and I'm just completely forgot to put that in there because I knew that was, that would happen. People would be like, what the heck's going on? And to your point, Tracy, I mentioned that you heard me probably complain about it several times, that Whatnot doesn't know how to get their act together with the time change. And that 9 o'clock schedule was that way because of the lack of that attribute with Whatnot. I just was not planning on going on till 9, so I didn't need to change it. And I also, you guys know, and whether it's a valid aspect or not, I still believe I notice a significant impact to my room count when I alter a time on the show, especially when it gets closer to when the time's supposed to go on. So I'm probably going to, go through all those chat shows and some of the other shows and just delete those shows and bring those, create new ones with the correct time. But anyway,
Couldn't you just leave them the way they are and just start the show when you normally would start it, even though it has the wrong time? Because historically, for your room count, your bookmarks are fairly low. Most people would think that you're going to have more bookmarks than you have people in your room, but for you, that's completely opposite. So would it even matter?
I don't know, because I've had situations where people tell me that, like if I go on early, I've done that in the past, they'll get the notification at the timestamp of when the show was, not when I went live.
Really?
That's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. So how much of that's still going on? If that's just flukes, if that's just people telling me that, and it's actually like that all the time, I don't know. It's just I've always noticed, and I could just be reading into things, but it feels like every time I'm messing with my times, it impacts my shows. So, which lends to our conversation about all this, like consistency, one, but two, the scheduled aspect in that manner to me has a big impact, feels like it has an impact to me, because I told you before, I had shows where I started it. It's happened to me at least two that I remember, which means it probably happened at least more like 3 or 4 times, where I shut the show down and restarted it and immediately had 20 to 30 more people come into the show than when I scheduled the standard show at the standard, because I had changed the time.
Interesting.
You know, I
That is
say
interesting.
we delete all of our shows after March 1st.
Mhm.
And then for March 1st, make sure we're not moving shows, and we start whole new shows to test this theory.
I
Because right
say
now-
all of March is just pop-ups.
No, I don't want to do pop-ups, but we don't move shows around. So
Okay.
most of you should know, and we've said earlier in this, we move a lot of our shows around. Like sometimes I'll move the same show like 10 times before it finally actually goes live. I know.
April 1st. Yes.
But April 1st, yeah.
Yes.
But Tony's been talking about testing this theory of Jeremy's, and we would be a perfect case study for that, because so many of our shows do get moved around.
They really do.
What if we just delete all of our shows after April 1st and then just only schedule them like for the week
Can,
and then keep
can we do?
a
Can
week
we,
at a time?
can we do 2 and 2? Can we schedule and pop up half the week and half the week?
I
That
think
way I
this
can
is
test
hilarious.
2 things at the same time frame.
We are like so polar opposite. I literally sat there last night and counted out how many weeks are left in the year so I could just schedule out the rest of my year. Like, and you're like, let's just delete it all and go for a week.
Well, see, typically, right? So whatnot allows you to
Scheduled or wing it.
Hey,
Let's be your case study.
And the reality is, the software tester in me, Tracy, I need to truly test all of the variables behind the scenes that the Whatnot software does. You don't, unless you are a developer or a tester on the back end, you don't know what these things really do.
Yeah.
And we're all just listening to the conspiracies of what it can do. What does the algorithm do? Nobody knows.
Yeah.
Unless
once
you
these
test
things get to this large and this much of a, it becomes a beast that they don't even know sometimes.
Yeah.
It feels
Yeah.
like.
Built on and built
Actually,
on.
I
and
know
built
that that's the case. Once something gets so big and they change
Yes.
things so frequently, there's certain attributes that that's uncontrollable for them.
And
Yeah.
Tracy, here's what we get lost in is, I think, Whatnot allows you to schedule 10 shows, right? When you go in
you
there.
could do like 20. I did it last
You
night.
do 20
Yeah.
now?
Yeah. I did 20.
I didn't know that.
2, I think, was last night. Maybe it was 20.
So
Wow.
wow. So it used to be 10 though, right?
Yes, it used to be 10. I realized
Yeah.
yesterday there
That's
used to be
fun.
a
When
lot
did
more.
they change that? Because the last time I just scheduled it, only let me do 10.
Yeah, the last time
I just saw
scheduled it was
last
10.
night, so I don't know how recent
Okay,
that
I'll
was.
have to look.
So
We'll
what
see how
I
long
would
they let that stick around.
would do is, we wholeheartedly have been trying to move to 5 days a week of regular shows, not including raid trains. And so I would go on Monday, schedule 10 shows, Tuesday, schedule 10 shows, Wednesday, schedule 10 shows for every Wednesday. But inevitably, because of burnout or whatever, life, I've had a lot of life happening lately. And whatever reason, we would end up moving 1 or 2 of those shows every week. We're still really consistent with 3, and but eventually they just start backing up. And I've had questions like, I've had messages like,
Why do you have 4 shows on one day? All at the same time. Why do you have 4 shows all at the same time on Tuesday?
I say we go for it. We should test this theory.
I agree.
Not to, like, I'm not picking on you with this comment, but to me, this is kind of like it goes to that underlying thing of scheduling it, is understanding what your capabilities are. Like,
hmm
I mean, really, you have to take some self reflection. And I'm not speaking to you, I'm speaking in general, but some self reflection and really think this through. And I mean, I've been there. I got so excited by Whatnot at the beginning. I'm like, I could do, a show every day, or I can do this because it's like, it's fun. It's appealing. It's like, oh, this is new money. This is, I get to shop. So you get this adrenaline rush from doing it, but you really have to be honest with yourself. Like, okay, what are my commitments? What do I have going on in life? When am I going to have my downtime? What's realistic for me to do? If you work a 9 to 5 job, when are you going to do shows? Are you going to be a morning or a night person? You're not going to be a 9, in between 9 and 5, you're probably not doing shows. So just taking some time to really think through it and starting small. I mean, I guess that would be anybody just starting out or just wanting to get some structure around it. You have to understand what your commitments are. And that doesn't mean you never reschedule a show. I reschedule shows. I just very infrequently I'm rescheduling shows because I protect that time. Like I do 7 a.m. 3 days a week. That's what we're doing.
And you're so organized that you give people like literally 2 weeks of notice every show. You're like, I'm not going to be here Saturday after next.
Yeah. And in our defense, our store was supposed to be closed by the end of the year.
True.
So Lysandra had already scheduled out a quarter's worth of shows and had it all posted. But with the store finally going to be closed by the end of this month, now I can focus the 5 days a week that I need to focus on. But with the store open, it's hard to say every single day that I can do a Whatnot show with so much that's still going on day to day with the store. Yeah. So is what it is. But yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
I'm just saying I'm a big believer, and that's always been the case, and it's proven time and time again that the consistency being the key to, like, that is probably the biggest, most solid central pillar to success on Whatnot.
And I agree.
The broadest
is
consistency. And one of the things that'll throw chaos into that consistency is, like you were talking about, Tracy, doing more than what you can handle. Because as soon as you might be able to do it for a while, and then you get burnt out, and then you have to change things. You start changing things, that consistency goes out the window, and you'll start having problems. I mean, that happened. We went through it early on. We started on Whatnot, 5 years ago. In a few weeks it'll be 5 years. In the first year, we got and especially back then, pretty big, pretty fast. A lot of recognition, and got going. And then our regular business model was Amazon at the time, and we decided to draw back on Whatnot. We had one show, and it was like a skeleton version, and that was our Friday show of what it was in the past. And it wasn't like restarting, but it was pretty close back then. I mean, trying to ramp back up again was, it actually was harder to kind of ramp up than it was when we started, because of the initial momentum that was built from the first exposure to the ideas we had. We couldn't, you can't replicate that. So, but that is, foundationally, you can't veer off of that aspect on I think live selling. I mean, it's a show. The show must go on. People have expectations.
Well, when we went through, and really me, when I went through my very first little bout of burnout from Whatnot was March, April. So we'd only been on about 3 or 4 months in a very fast growing category. And I think we maintained 1 show a week instead of our standard 3. Is that right?
Yep.
And it was the only way. We tried so many different ways, and the only way we were able to regain momentum again was the free shipping.
Yep.
And that's why we tried it. Because, at that point, it's like, well, this hasn't worked, this hasn't worked, this hasn't worked. We got back to being consistent to the same 3 days again, and weren't seeing any progress. So we had to try something pretty drastic to get people to notice us again.
Yep.
So
we tried free shipping.
Yeah. Think about it, though. By nature, I mean, if we just take a step back from the consistency, as sellers, we know why, we talk about it, but by nature, humans like habit, they like consistency, they like structure, they like things happening over and over again, routine. That's innate. whether we think we like routine or not.
Agreed.
It's innate. It's part of who we are. So much so that there are whole professions built around change management. So we wouldn't need a change management professions if us as humans did not like that routine, that structure. So let's use that to our advantage as sellers. Let's take what we know is true and be consistent. And then when we change, because we know we have to change, we have to grow, there's going to be things in our business that necessitate change. Now we need to take what we know and say, let's have some lead time up to it. I'm not just switching to 8 o'clock. I have a good 5 or 6 shows. I'm going to be talking about it. I'm going to lead my buyers along down the road with me so they're comfortable with the 8 o'clock change. And we have to think this way as sellers to some degree, even if you're not a scheduler person, because as a buyer, it's that anxiety, it's the comfort level, it's the knowing what to expect will affect your bid prices at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I am right with both of you. Consistency is the number one thing on this platform, even though Tony and I have failed to achieve it.
We have failed to achieve it.
Yeah.
We're working on it.
The nice thing is it's the one thing you can always decide to make happen.
Absolutely.
Like that aspect, it's the biggest aspect, but it's the one thing that everyone can.
So yes,
the
scheduler.
90+%. Obviously, like we all talk about, you can be consistent. Like today was an example. I'm always like to be consistently on it. 8 o'clock in the morning on Sundays, but this was an exception to the rule. So, but yeah. It's
talking about inconsistencies, should we talk about next week a little bit?
Yes, we should.
Oh yeah. That's a good idea.
Since we got 5 minutes left.
Yeah.
So next week, who wants to go?
Noelle's been holding up a sign to tell me to make sure that we didn't forget. I've been looking at for the last 30 minutes. He's been holding up a sign, and I'm like, "We'll get to it. We'll get to it. Keep your request to yourself."
Way to circle that back.
No, go ahead.
All right,
Sandra.
so I'll spit it out. Okay, so next week, Tracy and Jeremy will not be here. Jeremy has mentioned earlier that he's taking his vacation, and Tracy has
a cheer conference.
A cheer conference.
Yep.
So we will be down 2 people.
Not one. The idea of having this round table is that if one of us took a vacation, there were still 3 more people to pick up the slack of that one missing person, but they're both leaving us.
Correct.
So what have we done?
We will have our very first guest appearance on the Reselling Roundtable next week. And it will be
the one and only JJ Shopper.
There you go.
And if I have my way, and I'm going to put it right out here, I'm trying to get Noelle to be our 4th person.
Have Noelle be the 4th person. So there we go. That is our plans for next Sunday. Topics, I believe, was Julie's choice.
It is the guest choice. It's only right that you give the guest of honor the choice of topic.
So
I like that idea. We should do a show that's it's dealer's choice.
I agree. At some point, we're going to.
That would not work well with Tracy's schedule.
I could practice my wing it skills. We could go there.
So tune in for next Sunday. Yes. It's gonna be an interesting Sunday.
Yeah, if I find the time, I might tune in.
You're not supposed to be working.
No, you will not.
How is that working if I'm watching you guys on here for enjoyment?
Jeremy.
And actually, that's Jeremy. Hold on. It's a retreat from the busyness of work. I'm still going to be doing work-related stuff. It's just because the heft of what goes on a day-to-day basis prevents me from getting other things accomplished. I need to take a break to get it done. So it's not a vacation, but it is at the same time. I'm going to be, out enjoying, what I want when I want, but there's still going to be stuff getting accomplished that's work related. So that fits in perfect with this because it's work related, but not work related at the same time. You can sit down.
The beauty of this, Jeremy, is it is posted on YouTube and you can watch it whenever you want.
And that's true too, but I might have fun interacting. I might go home.
I don't need you to come in and start heckling.
Who said heckling? I said interacting. Like what? Did you just say I can't come in and heckle? Did you seriously tell me I can't heckle?
Millie just said it. If you can do that, you can be on.
Because I don't know if I can. One, I don't know what my service is going to be like.
I'm truly just messing with you.
I think you need to afford them the opportunity to become part of the audience for once. That would be interesting.
We need to experience it from all angles, just like it's good to be a buyer on Whatnot sometimes to experience it. I'm going to be in the show. Agreed. I'm going to be in the audience next week. Even though I'm at a cheer comp, I just can't. It's going to be too loud. There'd be no way for me to actually be on. But I'll have my earbuds in, and it's going to be on my phone. So,
well, let me say this: I am glad that it will be you two in the audience rather than my beautiful wife.
Because I am a heckler.
She will heckle.
Firsthand experience. I know that.
I know you do.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I roll. So if you don't know who JJ Shopper is, she's been on the app for 4 years. She's a Whatnot community host, wildly entertaining. She mainly does pallet sales. She's a business analyst in her 9 to 5, so she's going to bring a lot of knowledge. I told her controversial topics were okay, so, and I don't know what she's picked yet, but her deadline's tonight, so tune in next Sunday, and hopefully it will not be winged, and we get a topic and we can kind of research a little bit first, but I think it's going to be really good.
And check out the social media. I am working on a post for Miss Julie to advertise the appearance on the Reselling Roundtable.
Yep.
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
She's a blast. You guys are going to have a good time. So I can't wait to watch.
Yep.
So with that, anyone have anything else? Anybody out there have anything that they would like to discuss before
I think it's a perfect time. It is. We're 1 minute past the due time.
He's the timekeeper tonight.
Yeah, you got it. You got it.
I'm not gonna lie.
I got a lot to do.
I gotta be up at 5 in the mornings.
I'm exhausted.
That, with vacation coming, when you own a small business,
you gotta run.
A lot of stuff to get set up and prepped for. So.
Double the work before you leave, and 3 weeks to catch up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we just drove 8 hours to get here tonight to be able to do this. So,
wow.
If there are no questions or nothing else that needs to be discussed, I'm going to bed.
Bye, everybody. Hit that like button, you guys, if you're still here.